Good day, everyone. This is 40 Hours a Day podcast. I am Erola. We also have Junum going live.
Hey guys.
Good. We have Wicked,
Hello.
Orden,
Hi.
and then our guest today is Wraith.
Hello.
Today we're talking about a subject none of us know except for Junum, so you care to inform us, Junum?
Should AIs and people that would become more cybernetic than human have rights?
That's a good question.
Guess it would depend on how sentient they are. Are we talking artificial intelligence like iRobot type, where they're self-aware?
Yes.
Then, was it accidental or intentional?
Intentional.
Then I would assume
Either
yes.
way, I don't think it should matter. If it's accidental or intentional, you're still a being that's aware of what's going on. You should still have rights.
How cybernetic are we talking?
Say again?
How cybernetic are we talking?
I don't think he really matters since he said full AI system. I mean, if you create a being that's fully AI adapt, then that would mean fully cybernetic.
Much. To me, if you have, if anything, would have the ability to have its own consciousness, know what's going on around it, or even have feelings, any of that stuff, you should automatically, at that point, have rights. You shouldn't be denied just because you're something else.
But you would have had rights before. Wouldn't that mean you'd have to give them up?
Yes, but that's not how society perceives certain things.
Well, what are we talking about first? Are we talking about like artificial intelligence created in like a computer or something, or are we talking about like I go get the internet implanted into my head?
Everything, like anything you can possibly think of that.
Those are kind of two separate things. If we're talking like cyborg human becoming robot, you already have those rights. But in my opinion, if it's something we created with the intention of being more of more of an assistance to the rest of the world, then I don't know. That's iffy.
I feel we need to drive the question with a lot more narrow scope before we can try and broaden it.
Yeah, I think it would be better to narrow down exactly one at a time, because you got a point there. It's hard to decide with such a broad subject.
Exactly.
Understandable.
So then let's take it with the route of we're creating an AI. If we were to create an AI, meaning it didn't have a consciousness before, but then it gained it, should it have rights?
I believe so, yes.
That goes back into my subject of intention. Did we intend for it to happen? Because at the same time, if it wasn't created for that purpose, then I don't know.
See, I don't think that should be a question that should even technically be asked. Because just for the simple fact, if it was intentional or not, it's still something that knows it exists, knows what's going on around it and all that. Why wouldn't you sit there and say that it does not have rights? An infant is aware of stuff's going on around it. Doesn't know anything more than that.
I'm sorry, I don't think my Roomba should be able to vote.
I think you're one. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said I don't think my Roomba should be able to vote.
Well, how would we know if it actually did that? Gain consciousness.
I'm assuming it would, by this standard, make itself known.
Pretty much, that's what I would imagine.
Because like they test artificial neural networks all the time, and it's kind of interesting that they go back and try and figure out what the neural network actually knows, and they get completely different results. But is that a bug or something else?
I think
I mean, they might see the consciousness as a bug.
I think if my Roomba suddenly turned to me and started asking me questions about where it came from and who it was, I would probably tell it not to worry about it and to continue with its job, and then immediately write to the factory telling them about it and immediately requesting a fix, because I don't want my Roomba killing me in my sleep.
I would probably
So-
destroy the thing because
Exactly, that is
I
frightening.
don't want the
No,
rise of the machines.
exactly, no science fiction has that ever really been a good thing. It usually
Yeah, but
turns
that's
out
all
to be
science
bad.
fiction.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's
that's
true,
not
but it's-
entirely true. If you look at Japanese culture, robots and artificial intelligence are your friends. It's mostly the Western view of them that, the machines are going to rise up and kill us one day.
science fiction has proven to not be completely
Always
wrong
fake.
at times, though.
That's true, but I mean, it's still that would go to the whole thing. If aliens are real and they come to Earth, they're gonna fucking just conquer us and we're screwed. It's pretty much saying the same thing in that. Then
Am I the only one thinking I'd want to reverse engineer the damn Roomba to further refine its design?
But
I'm with you
I
on
don't
that
know.
one.
I don't want to get to a point where all human beings are ruled by Roombas, because Roombas have no actual, flaws such as humans do. We would immediately be taken over by their superior ability to, find the human filth and vacuum them up. We'd stand no chance against it. So obviously, human nature is destroy it before it destroys us.
Well, it depends if it follows the laws of robotics as well.
Well, even the laws of robotics failed. If you read those books, they weren't 100% because human nature inherently puts flaws in them.
Well, that's the case for everything. But, I mean, if you redefine those laws, then eventually it would be something that less likely to mess up.
I thought
suppose,
that
I
the
suppose.
laws of robotics were something you actually had to implement. It wasn't something that just emerged from the system. I would imagine if we had a computer system with like a neural net that was that advanced, it would probably go more the way of Skynet and not have any kind of safeguards for protecting
Exactly.
yeah,
human
most
life.
likely.
Because, I don't think they, and look at the Terminator movies, I don't think they actually expected Skynet to become self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and if it became self-aware, there's no
Well-
way to judge how it's gonna react to us either.
Exactly, but I mean, the way you're looking at it as well, if it happens and we're just fucked, that's it. That's the end of the story. That's not necessarily true. Yeah, that is one of the possibilities. It could go. It can go all kinds of different ways. But I
think
mean, it
regardless,
would all
we're
just
flawed.
depend. Well, yeah, we're a human race, built to be flawed.
Hopefully we'd be smart enough, though, to, build the system slowly, adding on complexity so that we could kind of gauge it better.
But still, at that point, it had its own consciousness, knew everything that was going on, was aware of everything. I'd say even at this point, it's already communicated with us, saying like, "Oh, hey, I'm real. Don't destroy me." Do you think that it should actually, at that point, have the same rights, or at least have some rights that some other being should have as well?
At most, I could agree to some, not all. I don't think that a machine.
Well, I'm not saying give it the right to vote, obviously. I'm just saying, like, it should still have rights.
But that would be part of its rights, would it not? The right to vote. Say, I don't like the way this particular bills going against anti-AI rights? Why did I not have the right to vote?
I think
I didn't think
at
about it that way.
most it
I
would have the
okay.
right to daily maintenance or at least yearly maintenance, but I
Well-
don't think it should be given the right to like ever infringe upon human sectors.
Well, what about like even more basic rights, like that creatures not even at the level of humans have, like the right to reproduce? What if it wants to make copies of itself? Do we give it that ability?
Absolutely not.
I would for the. I would, but I mean, also you got to think about it. I mean, if it's really that intelligent at this point, anyway, to be able to know that hey, I can reproduce, I'm pretty sure it's going to do it regardless of what you tell it to do.
Well, it might not know that it can. It might even know that it can't. But it might
Mhm.
want to.
Yeah.
But would you give it that right? I mean, what
I
if we
would.
don't fully understand the system?
Exactly. It could have
Well-
its own form of, genetic drift per se, and every time it replicates itself, it becomes a little less in control. And, no, I don't think they should by any means. I believe it should be regulated and built in a factory.
See, I
That
don't
is,
agree
if
with
it's
that one,
allowed to stay.
especially for the simple fact that if something really is that intelligent and has that ability to think for itself and all that, you're going to sit there and tell something no. Well, it's going to get pissed off at you eventually.
If it's capable
That
of
is
being
the
pissed
whole.
off.
Well, I would imagine if something is like a sentient being, it has the ability to have any type of feelings it would want at that point anyway, or at least become able to generate the ability to know the difference between like whatever.
Well, and then you get into other questions. How do we define it? That it's reached that level that okay, now it has rights. Where do you draw the line if it's you know
I'm not saying okay, it's an AI, it can do stuff on its own, like blah 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 whatever. I'm saying it has more to the fact where everyone's fully aware that it can do things on its own. It knows everything that's going on that a normal human would. Trying to think what else. I kind of lost my train of thought there. But yes, it literally would be just like another human talking to another human. If it called you over the phone, you would not know it's a computer.
they've had that though. Like they have text bots that are sophisticated enough now that people have talked to them for months and years, and it was run as like a little lab experiment. But the people interacting with it didn't know that it wasn't like the school psychologist. It was a robot.
If it gained sentience, like it became self-aware and understood, why should it not be given rights? 'Cause I feel if you keep denying it right, you're only going to make it feel trapped. It feels the appropriate word there.
In that regards, robots have a thing that they have in them where they don't age. Not quite the same as we do. I would agree to it if they had kill switches in them.
So I don't think you should have.
But
Why,
why don't
kill
humans have
switches?
kill switches at that point?
It's
We do.
exactly
It's
that's what I was
called
about to
aging.
say. No. By kill switch, the way I'm taking it at least. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. You
off
guys are all
button.
taking exactly. That's pretty much saying, oh well, we're tired of you, so we're going to kill you now.
I'm thinking more a pre-designed function in them that
Oh, and
just
lets it last for so
destroys
long.
them after a certain amount of time.
Well, then you would have to allow it to be able to reproduce, because at that point you're pretty much committing genocide.
That would be the exception, as I would allow them if they could die.
Well,
Why should we choose how they die, though?
If
Exactly.
they want the same rights as us, then they should be set to the same restrictions as us.
Now, who said that they would
what
have
if we
the
don't have the
Go ahead.
well, another one, what if we don't have the capability to expand the machine to give it what it wants? What if it's like, it wants more memory, but the motherboard can't take another RAM chip,
So at that point, I'm pretty sure if you ended up getting a computer that could think for itself, they would find a way to expand upon itself one way or another. I don't really think it would have that big of an issue. The main reason I think it
Well,
should allow
eventually you're going
anyway.
to run out of space.
That is
The
true.
computer does have a finite amount in it.
Yes, but I mean that's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure if it would come to that point and it could think on its own, if it really wanted to expand upon itself in that like aspect or whatever, okay, I completely understand the computer only has so much in it, but I'm pretty sure it would be like, oh well, I'm going to order me this now, so now I can do more.
Yeah, but if you take out the motherboard, are you taking out the part of it that gives it sentience?
I would imagine if you take out the motherboard, pretty much just like cutting somebody's brain out, man.
Okay, so
What if it?
then
What if it
your
doesn't want to?
if your motherboard can only support so much memory, and removing the motherboard basically removes its brain, that means it is limited to a certain amount of growth.
It is, but thinking about it, not letting it expand upon itself would be the same as I'm going to put you in this cage, and hopefully you don't keep growing after you reach the age of 12. So yeah, have fun.
I don't think it would have the ability to expand upon itself. But more along those lines, I don't think it should be allowed to.
Pretty much, you're saying that you don't think AI should have rights.
You're
Yeah,
thinking
not-
of it still in a very linear form, though. Imagine you gave it an internet connection, and it instead used servers around the world, putting just little bits of itself on each server, and then it could basically expand itself infinitely
We're
at that
talking
point.
more along the lines of like Jane from Ender's Game.
Yes.
Like a collective conscience where it would just be one entity, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can take it back to the part of like, have you guys ever seen and watched Nine?
Yeah,
It was a Tim Burton film, I think, a couple of years ago.
the little puppet things.
Not Tim Burton. He got the name. He got the. It was an indie film, but Tim Burton's name was on it. know
Yeah,
what you're
he
talking
helped
about.
direct it, but yeah, either way, basically those robots were able to reproduce themselves. They were able to make themselves better. They were able to conquer the world and basically destroy the human race because they weren't locked into a certain set of rule set. But if that comes to be the case where they can do that, I mean, there are theories out there that eventually they will become intelligent enough that they will sit there and be able to reproduce themselves, create themselves, that they would be able to fix themselves like a doctor would do a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, would they be considered sentient enough to have rights?
I believe any AI that can, for the most part, think for itself and actually decide whether or not it should have rights at that point should have rights. So, I mean, if it has the ability to think about it, I mean, why would you really say, well, no, we're going to keep you in this little box and not let you do anything else?
I think this more goes into the idea of, do you respect the human race enough to believe that it deserves to continue going? Because I do not believe the two can coexist. We can't even coexist amongst ourselves.
We'd have to make sure it's safe before we do anything.
Exactly. That is, of course, if you know, and I'm sure the majority of people would agree that human beings, because we are selfish, deserve to prevail over them. So if there's any chance at all that it threatens our reign, then no, it wouldn't be able to coexist with us. It would probably get wiped out pretty quickly.
I don't think it would be wiped out as quick as people think, especially since it is just pretty much a computer code itself.
I mean, this is pretty much the same debate they had in Appleseed, I think it was. I mean,
believe, yeah.
they created a complete sentient AI that was nearly identical to humans. They pretty much have debated, do they deserve the rights? Because they can. The only reason why they couldn't reproduce is because they programmed it into them long before they
Mhm.
were created to not be able to reproduce.
I think
Yeah.
it kind of fits in with, I think it was the Bicentennial Man. It's been a while since I've seen that, but didn't he also receive quite a bit of discrimination for slowly trying to become more and more human?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. See,
Yeah,
I
in fact,
still feel for the most.
that wasn't even until he decided to die that
Exactly.
they agreed to say, okay, well, you're human.
Exactly. He wasn't human until the day he agreed to die, which is kind of what I went with. If they died like we died, then I would definitely agree that they should have rights.
See, I don't agree with that fact for the simple fact the human race sits there tries to find ways to prolong its own life nonstop. So what you're saying is if way to not die, we're no longer a human.
At that point, I would argue we aren't. Part of what makes you
So
human is that you have a very limited time to do things, and at least in my
Then I'm
opinion.
tired of being human.
right.
Exactly.
I don't
And
want to be human
I feel
anymore.
like once you reach your immortality where you don't die, I think yeah, you then fall under a different set of rights.
See, I don't see that at all. So you're saying if every human on the planet all at once right now no longer age, no longer die, any of that, so we're no longer a human race. What are we at that point?
I'm
The
not
immortals.
positive. I think you would definitely be something else. At that point,
So
you've defied nature.
So then, what rules would we go by? I mean, if everything's still the same except for you just can't die, well, you can die, but you just don't grow old and die.
Being humans, I would assume we'd come up with a completely new set of laws regarding it.
I don't think we would. If
Transhumanism.
reproduction would be different, that would be it. At that point, I know they would try to do something for reproduction, but there wouldn't be anything else. I mean, if you break a law, you're still going to get sentenced to whatever, etc., stuff like that. Okay, well then, since we pretty much know Orden and everyone's point on that, now let's say something happens to you and you become more robotic, I guess I should say, than actual human.
So you
Does that make
basically
sense?
take cybernetic parts into you and become a cyborg.
For the most part, yes.
Well,
Now,
you're
you
born
still
with those
have-
rights. You should keep them.
See,
Why
then,
should
what's
you
the
keep them
difference?
if you're not
Because-
going to give them to an AI? If they're going to
Exactly.
live forever, at that point you are.
You didn't
You
say
know,
we're
you're
gonna
the
live
sum
forever.
of your parts.
Well, if you keep... So that's why I didn't say it the way I figured you'd end up changing your mind on. If you take those cybernetic parts and something else on you about to go bad, okay, you're going to get that switched out too. And then the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. Now, at that point, you have the ability to download your consciousness into a machine for the most part. You're still born human, but you're pretty much a robot now. So what you've already said is you have rights because you were born human. So because they were born human, and the other person was, or the other thing was made, they don't have rights, but you still do, just because you were born.
So basically, at this point, you said I have replaced all of my parts, and I'm mostly robot, yet still have minute human parts, like say bones, muscles, and
Do you
skin.
have a squishy brain?
Do I have a squishy brain, or do I have like
Well, I mean,
It's
you
up
know, a
to you. I
mechanical
mean, that
brain?
shouldn't really
I would
matter,
think
but
if
I mean,
I
whatever
would
you
think
want.
if you're like, the robots from Fallout, you're just a brain in the jar.
I think
Technically, the brain is what makes you who you are.
exactly. I would have to say that if the brain is still basically in a raw state, not enhanced in any way, then yes. If you start switching parts of your brain out for machinery, then no, you're not anymore. You've basically
Okay, so
So
let me
I
get
want
this
the
right. then.
neural interlink
Let's
up into
say-
my head.
Let me get this then. We get into a car wreck. Now the only thing wrong with me is my body's fucked up. So they go ahead and I replace them pretty much just a brain in a robotic suit. Now what happens to you is your head just gets fucked up and you lose, like, let's say a fourth of your brain or whatever. Not enough
Mhm.
to kill you, but enough to where, hey, your brain can no longer tell your lungs to work and etc., like parts like that of your body. So they do something to where they mechanically engineer whatever to do that for you. But you can still walk around. You look human. Nobody would know. Oh, only person that really knows is me and you, the doctors. So you're no longer human now. Even
For
though
my
you can
standards, I would say no, I would not be.
see, I can't. I just I don't see that.
I
I think
wouldn't.
you'd still be.
So since you're no longer human, I can say, hey, you can't play video games anymore. You can't talk to anybody unless I tell you you can. You can't go outside. You're not allowed to move from that
at
corner.
that point, would I care? I
You,
guess that
you
would
still
where
no,
you
no.
get to
You
be.
still have your feelings. You still know everything that's going on. The
I
only
lost a
part of
fourth
you
of my
in your
brain, though.
brain. That's why I sit there and said the only part you lost of your brain is the part that sits there and tells your body what it needs to do to keep you from like dying.
That
Not
involves a
obviously
lot of other
dying by
major
old
parts
age, but
as well. Like that's interfering with
You're
your
just trying to
logic
make
and
it more.
creativity centers as well. Like
Okay, then let's say it was one part where you didn't lose fourth brain. You lost the part of your brain that fucking says, "Hey, lungs, you need to breathe." That's the part you lost.
I don't
Let's
believe
put
humans
this
should be able
simpler.
to infringe upon death.
Well, that kind of thing happens
You'll
now,
still
though,
die
you know?
though.
Eh.
What if
You
it
will
was a
still
more
die.
gradual chain?
But
So let's think about this. 20 years from now, we build a chip that lets us, instead of putting on VR headsets, we're in the video game.
I
Right?
can't wait. Sign me up. Let's do it.
Well, that's the thing, is I know most of us here would.
oh, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But Orton
But-
wouldn't. So
no,
Orton
no.
wouldn't be human anymore.
I would
Sorry,
sign up.
go ahead.
I would sign up for the uploading my brain onto the internet thing.
Let's think how that's going to continue to progress. So you're going to go further and further where we are going to get
Oh,
to
hell
a
yeah.
point where why aren't we just uploading our conscious into the net instead and living there? You know, minus a whole bunch of other issues, but that's not what it's about. The point is, at that point, do you lose your rights because all you've decided to do was you wanted to play your video games better than you ever have before? Are you giving up your rights in order to play your video game?
Not
That's
very
a-
positive because one, I wouldn't do that. I would not. Anything that involves getting a chip or a piece of electronics inside of my body would be just a no-go.
Oh, see, I would do it.
I would do it in a heartbeat.
As for me, as long as you are still you, like whatever they want to fucking say, the soul or whatever, that makes you you. You're still a human. I really don't care at that
Well,
point.
I mean, the
Yeah, I agree
very
with that.
principle of putting chips and electronics in people is already taking away your rights. They have
People
these-
already do that though. You
That's
do
what
realize
I'm saying, is they take chips and they put them in kids now, so that you
Right.
can find them GPS. You've taken away
Yeah, that was
kid's
weird.
rights.
I've seen that. I saw that during.
It
the
is
commercial.
weird, but I honestly have no issue with that
So
either
it's
personally.
I do. If I feel like I want to be able to disappear, I should have that right.
Okay,
and I should
so
not have a chip in my body.
if somebody kidnaps you, then you're just fucked then, right?
On the off chance that I
Because-
am kidnapped,
Kidnaps happen a lot more
yes,
often
it,
than
it
you
does,
think, man.
But I
Not
understand
usually
it
to
does.
25-year-old guys.
I
No,
understand
but I'm
that it
not
doesn't.
saying, oh, it's going to happen to you because you're 25. I'm saying
But
he
I
said
would,
as a
I would
person or
personally
whatever.
put that risk on myself over being chipped.
So, so then what if someone asked, "Do you want to be chipped so that way in case you get kidnapped or something like that?" And they say yes,
Then
and
that
then they
way
end
you're
up killing.
voluntarily giving away that right. It is literally taking a right away from somebody.
See, I don't see
Well, it
how it's
depends on where
taking
the
her
chip
right
is,
away.
because if it's just under the skin, it can be dug out. You know.
That is true, but not really something I would be willing to ever put in my body.
See, I don't
Well, I
really
w-
see how it's taking a right away from you. You still have the freedom to go and do whatever you want. Yeah, if they think you were kidnapped or something like that and they use it to find you, I'm pretty sure you say, well, I don't want to be found. Go away.
Yet
That
you
should be
still
that.
don't have that ability to disappear. Something is always tracking where you are.
Something's always tracking us where we are right now.
You can literally throw everything you own away and walk away and not be found.
I don't
Why
think
would you
so.
want to do that though? That's
People
highly
can find you.
inconvenient.
You'll
It is
still be found.
inconvenient. Yes,
I
but
know
you're
it is.
making
You'll
them work
still
for it
be
at
found.
that point.
You're
But-
still making someone work for it whenever they have to flip a damn switch to sit there and say,
It's
"Oh, I
a
want to find this
huge
person."
difference.
It's the same
It is
principle.
not the same.
It is the same
But-
principle.
There's too many damn people in this world that would just disappear. I'm
Exactly.
sorry.
I
What if
post
you
your
were the
photo
one who
wall.
could turn on and off the switch?
Kinda
Exactly.
like how
Okay.
you can
so
turn
that.
on and off a cell phone and still be tracked with it.
No, what
You can take the
Arola, I'm
battery
pretty
out.
sure is trying to say, it's if you, let's say you have it in your arm, where if you fucking, you know where it is, no one else besides the fucking guy that put it in you, unless you put it in yourself. Let's say it's like in your ear, you squeeze that part of your ear, it turns it off. You squeeze it on, it turns back on. But once that thing's squeezed or whatever, it's off. You can't be tracked.
If I could physically detach it from my body, then yes.
So then what
Something
you're
that plugs into like your, eardrum that I can rip out if I have to. Then
Well,
maybe.
I
See,
think
there
we're
you
getting a
go.
little bit off topic here because you're talking about like mostly those RFID chips. What
Mhm.
about like a pacemaker? You know, that's your heart's not beating right. Here's a machine we're putting in you that's going to make it beat regular.
So you keep living.
You know,
How do you feel about that then? Do you feel that right there you're giving
My
away your
whole
human
issue,
right?
my whole issue was along the lines of the brain and being able to disappear at will. As long as you're not adjusting somebody's brain or taking away their ability to, with the ID chips. No, I don't like that. And I would not adjust anything in my brain at any time.
I don't like
Well,
those anyway
see-
because religious reasons, but that's me.
No, it's
Like
I,
having
the
a chip put in the back of my head that like I push a button on the base of my skull and close my eyes and I'm on the internet. I would want that.
I think it would just depend. Like, I don't think you should lose your rights at all, personally. I mean, if you want to do something like that, you should be able to do it. That's just like the whole thing going right now. Oh, should gay people have rights? Yeah, they should still have their. They're still a fucking human being. Just because they like somebody of the same sex, it's their own shit. And then it goes into the whole, well, you can also sit there and say, as an example, oh, well, he's this religion, he shouldn't have any rights. Well, you're not that religion, so you still have your rights. It's all fucking bullshit. I mean, granted, yes, it is different because it's religion against fucking something that's mechanical or electrical, whatever you want to call it, versus organic or whatever.
Now
But
here's one for you.
to me, it's still the same fucking thing.
Here's one for you. What if you take that like science fiction extreme route and you actually upload like your brain onto a computer?
I'd be happy as well.
But what if like, it just copies it? Would that copy have the same rights you have?
So
'Cause
you're
as
saying it's
far
a
as- as far
copy
as-
and not you anymore? Or
Basically.
I don't know.
It would be a clone
but as
of
far
you.
as basically a clone of your brain. Just a
Then
digital
it's
clone.
But it's a clone. It's not
it-
technically you.
But it thinks it's you. As far as it knows, it was you.
If
But
it
should
could
also
have,
It has all your
control over
memories,
your
it
bank
has-
accounts.
It has all your memories,
No,
it knows
it's
all your
not you.
passwords, it knows everything you do.
I'm pretty sure at that point it would have a different. It would still have a different ID than you, though. It would have like a digital footprint compared to your actual footprint.
But would it still have rights? Because I mean,
I personally believe so. Yes.
So it should have access to everything that you have because technically it's you.
That's what you're saying. That is not what
Well,
I said.
per what it believes, though, so you're gonna tell it that what it believes is wrong and it can't have access to that anymore, even though it's all it knows?
No. I know I'm personally smart enough where somebody sits there and says, "Oh, you're not you. You're a clone." Yeah, I'm going to find out if I'm actually a clone or not. But obviously,
well,
if
if
I'm
you
in a
exist
computer,
entirely in the computer,
that's what I was about to say. But obviously, if I'm in a computer and not in a physical body, I'm pretty sure it's not me. But at that point, then yeah, you're going to be upset for a while, probably depressed, whatever other friggin' emotions you're going to go through. But no, I personally do not feel that, like, if the guy was the computer version, I wouldn't feel, no, I'm not. I mean, obviously, I'm a copy of that individual, but I'm not that individual.
So how do you cope with property then?
Well, at
How
that
would
point,
you
I'm in a
cope with that
computer. It
realization,
wouldn't
waking up
really
one day
matter.
and
Well, as for property, I'll be honest. I'm in a friggin' computer. I wouldn't
You are
need a
property.
phone. I don't need this. I don't need.
See? And he's just said it, you are property.
No, that's what he said.
Somebody can turn you off.
Somebody can turn you off right now, and you're not property.
Yeah, but they can turn you off and you are property. That's kind of how that works.
It's technically, you're property right now. I would say more, but I mean, this is kind of being recorded, and I can't really say that. I'll put it in TeamSpeak. Sorry, people, I can't share this one with you.
that's just nasty.
The question is, should AI have rights?
I
So
still say no.
we say, why don't they have rights? Is because so far the only one I've really heard is they live forever.
Which I think that's a BS excuse. Does anybody else have, like, okay, would anybody else here think that AI should not have rights? Besides Orden, obviously.
I'm kind
It's
of
iffy.
on
I
Iffy's
need-
conclusion.
It's iffy for me. I need to know more about it. You know, what are its limitations? Is it as smart as a 3-year-old? Is it as smart as a dog? I mean, you know, animals are pretty aware of themselves, but they aren't on the same level as humans.
Well, let's say that their intelligence level is the same as an average human. And I did say average.
Well, then, to the extent that it's physically possible, yeah.
So you do believe they should, at that point, they do have rights.
I would say so.
Okay.
It again, it's what's possible. You know, if we can't move it from a big box in a room somewhere into like something mobile, then no, it doesn't have the right to move.
I don't really think that would fall underneath rights at that point. If it doesn't have the right, can't friggin' move, then obviously you just can't move. I don't think you
But
should
it
say, well, you
does,
don't have that
though,
right.
doesn't it? Wouldn't you be sitting there saying to the machine, to the AI, you have right? First thing it asks you, I want to go next door.
Then I would
Well,
say
you
have
just
at
said it had rights. So why is it now that it can't go next door?
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I don't. I'm meaning if it's a computer and it can't physically get up and walk itself over there, I'm personally not going to carry you over there. Just, I'm not. But if it has the ability to go from point A to point B, good at it. I don't care. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, if we got like androids like Data from Star Trek, you know, I would see giving them rights. Or something like the Doctor from Voyager.
Mm-hmm. I personally would, as long as it wouldn't be, you can't go and kill this person. I mean, it's like rules like that, obviously, the same rules that are set in motion with us. I'm not going to say, oh, well, you can go kill that person just because you can. But at that point, like I've already said, it has the same like consciousness as an average human. Average person's going to know you can't just go up to somebody and kill them just because you want to kill them.
Well, some people don't think that morally.
I said average, not special individuals.
It's not just... There are lots of average Muslims who think you should die because you're a white person.
Yes, but that's Muslims. That's
and
not
they are
average
perfectly
as a human.
average people. They just think a little differently than you.
I've never met any Muslims personally.
For
that
me-
think I should die just because I'm white. Go ahead, Irola.
For me, it depends on, can the AI feel emotion?
Yes.
If the AI can feel emotion, I would say it should be given right. Because then it would be able to build its own moral compass. But if it doesn't, I think it would be too dangerous to give it any right.
I think even if it hold on. I think even at that point, if it has no emotions, it should still have some sort under different standard. But as for it having emotions, I mean, I guess that's what I meant in the beginning. I should have stated that. It does have emotions. It can think just like a normal person, etc. I believe it should have every right we have.
So then us as creators have to give it.
You can be emotionless at times, yes. But that's also a choice that you're making.
Hey D, I do see your question. I'm not going to pronounce your full name because I think I'm going to pronounce it wrong. He asks, well, but isn't emotions also what makes us technically human?
I would say no, because animals feel emotions too.
And some people don't feel emotions, not the same way.
Psychopaths. But you know, lots of animals feel emotions. Lots of animals do have a level of being self-aware.
At that point, yes, it would pretty much be a Frankenstein issue. In case you guys aren't actually on the Twitch, there's a guy talking. I think it's pronounced Damocles.
No, that's exactly what it is. It is the Frankenstein issue.
I guess more or less to resolve this, you would have to actually decide what makes us human and define whether or not this AI meets the criteria to fall into that category and match those same traits.
I
Well, I would say what
agree
makes
with
us
you to a point, but what makes us as humans, what gives us the right to decide that?
I think
I mean,
it kind of goes into the fact that we would then be the parental figure in a sense.
Whoever the
we'd be
one
the
that would be
god
originally.
figure.
No, I don't see it
wouldn't
as a
say
god at all,
figure.
personally.
I would.
A robot would see us as way too flawed to probably ever accept that.
So I don't
Well,
agree
look,
with that either.
I don't know.
I
Look,
believe
look at Transformers. They had creators, and they
that's very
revered their
true.
creators as gods because the creators could create them. The robots couldn't reproduce on their own.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're really looking at that, then technically your mother and father created you, then you're a god. But I feel that's going on to a completely different subject.
these are the kinds of questions that have to be answered to give whether or not an AI that we created, something we made, should be given rights.
Oh, I know that. I mean, it's definitely one of the
Would it
questions you should ask.
would it be different if we genetically engineered a person from scratch and grew them in a test tube till, the body age of 20? Should we give them rights, that individual? Same kind of concept would sit there.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about like the original first run of Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
I think Transformers have always been that way, though, haven't they?
I thought it was that they couldn't.
I thought they always could. They just didn't have any of it.
No, in the original animated series, they had energon all the time. It was their fuel.
I'm trying to get rid of a bias here. So, we create a human, completely grow him outside of the normal out of the normal contraception system. Grow him quite literally in a nice, huge fucking test tube. Pops out one day. Does that individual have rights?
I would say yes. As long as he can have or has emotions and can think for themselves. Yes.
There's people that don't have emotions that are naturally born that can think for themselves, though. Do they not deserve those rights?
If you can comprehend morals, then I feel you should still have rights. And I'm not saying comprehend isn't just, oh yeah, I know what morals are. No,
Whose
I mean, like, you
morals?
have to actually understand human morals.
Humans have different morals amongst themselves. I feel like that's not a sufficient
As a
thing to go off
human
of.
race, I guarantee there's a set of morals that are somewhere that I guarantee if you end up Googling it or something, you could probably find something.
No,
Like a set of morals
morals vary
that are set
a
for a
lot
human race.
between morals vary a lot between different cultures and people. Is no universal morals for humans. I mean, look at like how do you feel about gay people, for example?
It doesn't bother me. If you want to be gay, be gay.
Well, the people of the Westboro Baptist Church are morally opposed to that viewpoint in its own. You know, they're if you anything you believe in, there's somebody who you'll be able to find somebody who's morally opposed to it. I mean, even the stuff like don't kill anybody isn't universal to humans.
I think you'd have to go even more basic, like if you even have the ability to free think, like taking morals completely outside of it. Because I honestly don't think morals are what make you human.
I would agree with you on that one, Damocles. As a baseline, if you could come up with a baseline of morals that most people would agree, and I still say that would be the base, like the basis to go off of.
So, if you
I would
gave
agree with
it
the free thinking one.
those traits, would it qualify at that point to give it rights?
I would say yes.
I would think a major trait would be, can it create something? Because that's something that's, for the most part, unique to humans.
So you're talking about creativity and the ability to use tools.
Not the ability to use tools, because they've shown monkeys can use tools. And birds use tools, but, humans are the only one who could take an abstract idea and make it into something physical.
Yeah, but at the same time, like you guys keep trying to say with everything else, not every human can technically do that. Some people just have no creativity whatsoever. So, I mean, if you guys really want to keep using that point as an argument, anybody can use it as an argument.
Well, I mean, just about anybody can come up with an abstract thought.
Who's to say
Whether
animals
or not
can't
you
come
have
up with
whether or not you have
abstract thoughts,
skill.
though?
What if we go back to basic elementary school things, like critical thinking?
They still teach that?
I believe they do.
Teach what? I didn't hear you.
Critical thinking.
Not with my experience of humanity.
I didn't say they do it well.
They need to start treating. They need to start teaching common sense.
Yeah, that's something, sorely. There you go. If the robot has common sense, I
Wait.
think it should have rights.
Common sense is not so common anymore.
No.
It just
No,
faded.
it's not.
They need
Have
to
you
change
seen
the
some of the
word.
people who walk into Walmart?
Right.
Common sense would dictate it's not a good idea to text while driving, but we have to have laws to stop people from doing it. Otherwise, they'd end up killing themselves.
I mean, common sense tells you not to fuck a porcupine, yet there's laws that tell you not to fuck a porcupine. Let's just face it.
And that law wouldn't be there unless somebody did it.
That's the sad part.
Exactly.
especially if the law's that specific.
I'm pretty sure if something like that would happen, yeah, granted, before you decide whether or not you should have rights or not, they're going to end up coming up with a big conference of it, and they're going to discuss all the points that, well, this makes humanity, or not humanity, this will make blah 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 this, so that way you can actually have rights, etc.
Make a mistake. I like that one.
I will definitely agree with that one, but I guess if you
Well, the
would
problem
count
with an
that
AI,
one, I
though-
would take it more into the point of. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like what you said. He said, "I think a big part of being human is the ability to make mistakes." I agree with that. But at that point, would that argument really become as more of should they actually have rights or are they human?
Could an AI even make mistakes, or would that just be considered a computer glitch?
You know, that one I don't really know either. That
You know,
would be
I
a
tried-
curious thing.
I tried using Google to a degree for human being. It says a man, woman, or child of a species distinguished from other animals by superior mental development, power of articulate speech, and upright stance.
Well, that's
Apparently,
just the
that's
description
all
of what a
Google
human
has
is.
on human.
So if I were to put an AI inside of a robot that could stand up, I'm good. He's good to
Yes,
have
speak.
rights.
Articulately.
According to Google, yes, that's all it would take.
Yeah. It also has to have a sex.
You could
I
put it
wouldn't
into a
say-
robot that has a sex.
I would say sentience should be the more defining thing. Not human. I mean,
Humans very limited. I don't know if anybody believes in life out there. I mean, if we have aliens come to our planet, they're obviously not human, or well, they may be humanoid, but they are not going to be, in our definition, human until we get to know more about them. So,
True.
that means that
and
they
even
don't
then,
have rights?
species-wise, they would not be human. They'd be different from us on some level.
I don't
So
think the human thing would really matter personally. I mean, I don't really
But-
care if you're human or not. If you have the ability to communicate with other species and have emotions, etc., stuff like that, at that point, yes, I believe you should have fucking rights. I mean, granted, yes, I know we've said human rights at a certain point, but at that point, I don't think we'd be calling it human rights anymore. It should be like basic living rights or basic whatever rights, etc.
Well, if we look at the definition of sentient, it is the ability to feel, perceive, or experience subjectively.
There you go. That's what they'll go off of. If you can do that, should you have rights?
I would say yeah.
I would agree with that.
I would be more afraid to say no. Because if you had that ability, what would it do if it wasn't given right in order to
Prove
either
that
give
does.
itself rights or move above us?
I'll say that per that definition, if a robot met those, it should be given rights, but if it can't die, we should still kill it before we give it to it.
Yes, technically, it's basically what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure most of the other people here agree with me as well.
Yeah, sentient enough to grow out of machine logic. I like that.
So, everyone here, for the most part, agrees that they should have rights, except for Orden, then.
I just said
mean-
I agree, but I think
Oh,
they should
okay.
be destroyed if they're robots.
Technically,
Orden is
we're all...
afraid of the robot uprising.
That's Orden's
I have
only
read
thing. As long
enough
as he's not
Isaac
killed by a
Asimov.
robot, he doesn't really care.
I like the Douglas Adams one. Robots are your plastic pal who's fun to be with.
Hmm.
You guys should have all watched Ex Machina. I'm surprised none of you did.
Planning on buying it when it comes out.
That movie gives a prime example of why I think you should give something right. Because of what it could do if it didn't. You know, at
Mm.
least
Well,
if we
that's another
gave
thing
it
is-
rights, it has the ability to make the choice. Well, should I damn these people who made me, these beings who are clearly inferior to me? Or should I try and help them? You know, I mean, if you didn't try and help it, how is it going to respond to it?
Exactly. I mean, even in human history, look at back at what has happened when we have tried to enslave other humans,
Mhm.
much less anything else that have a sentient being.
It worked out for the Romans.
Yeah,
For
it
a
didn't.
time.
Yeah, for set
Because
amount of
some-
time, and then it goes
I was
horribly, horribly wrong.
But that wasn't because of the slaves. It was because the Roman Empire was sacked by savages.
And because
Something
they had lead
still
in their
went
hot
wrong,
dogs.
though.
But do you think whenever those slaves had their cages opened, had no problem fucking joining in on the fight?
Slaves had more rights than most people, than like citizens did in some cases. You know, if you injured a slave, it wasn't you like you were injuring property. You injured a person and you had to pay restitution.
Mm.
Now, it wasn't necessarily like eye for an eye restitution, like if you injured another citizen, but you had to pay money. And the slaves, you know, they joined the gladiatorial games and then they got to be free. Life just kind of sucked for them. They were the lower class.
What if we put our robots into class structures?
Pretty sure they would put themselves in the class structure, to be completely honest
That's
with
what I
you.
mean, is if we do give them rights, although inferior rights.
Mm. Well, see, I don't even think you need to do that. Honestly, if there's more than one, and you actually give rights to them anyway, then I'm pretty sure even after they become rights, they're going to start coming up with their own laws and rules between each others. Granted, yes, humans will still have our own particular rule sets or whatever you want to call it. I'm pretty sure at that point they would come up with their own. Well, obviously they don't want to sit there, and at that point I would believe at least, or like to believe, they're going to sit there and come up with a rule. Well, you can't go kill a human because if you kill a human, then it's going to start a bunch of shit. And at the same time, they're obviously going to have, well, don't go killing another robot, just for easiest word to sit there and use, another robot just because you can go kill another robot. But at the same time, then yes, human race is also going to have, well, humans don't need to be going and killing robots as well. We would still have separate sets of rules, but they would still have rules that they would have to follow. Obviously, at that point, if they're just metal and etc. or whatever, still in machine form, you can't really give it lethal injection.
You can't give a robot a lethal injection, but you can turn it off.
Technically, if it doesn't have an off switch, you can't really turn it off.
I can find a way to turn it off. I can find a way to turn anything off.
EMP.
It's not really
Well,
turning it off
just-
at that point.
Physically
Basically.
disconnecting the power source in some manner.
I mean, yeah, I can disconnect power source from a human as well.
That was mentioned before. Growing it
Was that?
slowly to test whether or not they should be given their right.
See, I don't think they would have an issue with that personally. I mean, if you're really a sitting up being, then yeah, I mean, it's going to be upsetting at first, but I honestly do not think they would have as much of an issue with that, especially if you told them why and they're going to have the ability to understand you. You're going to be like, well, humans have the fear of this, and this happening. I'm pretty sure at that point, okay, that's understandable. They wouldn't be like, well, no, I don't really give a shit. At least I don't feel that's how it would come. Anyone think of anything else to say or add?
See, that's another good point that, again, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name, is bringing up. You know, what if it ends up something like District 9? You know,
Mm-hmm.
how horribly wrong can that go?
You know, I haven't seen that. I don't know if I know I'm not going to pronounce it right. Chubby, whatever that movie is about the robot that can think. Same people that made District 9 made that one. I haven't watched it yet. I have it in the living room. But pretty sure there'll be some type of points like that on there as well.
Well, it seems like we're hitting an end for our time on this particular topic, so let's go ahead and gather final thought. Let's just say to the simple question, should AI, in the way we defined it, be given rights? Just go around the table. We'll start with you.
I believe that they absolutely should.
Wraith.
Maybe.
Wicked.
I agree only on certain conditions.
Those are?
Basically that they have to be pretty much sentient enough to be able to, understand and have emotion just like us.
Understandable. Horden.
I would agree in the sense that was stated about slow growing it. And only then it would be a maybe, as in if it did not show any sort of desirable outcome in our favor, which being human is kind of what we have to worry about, and if it does not seem as though it's going to be compatible with us, then absolutely not.
What about you, Damascules?
Damocles?
Yeah,
I think it's
Damocles.
Damocles, right? Is your name being said right? Is it Damocles?
It's Damocles.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to double check.
Gotta give him his 20 seconds to respond. Gave a simple yes. And then my answer is yes, more out of fear than just afraid of boxing them up and seeing what they could do. You know, Matrix, Skynet, whatever fucking reasons you can come up with. But those are my thoughts. That's everybody else's. Other than that, I want to thank everybody who did join the chat.
Good topic, Junum.
Mm-hmm. And next week, I do believe, Orden, you are picking the next topic.
Alrighty.
Alright then, we will see everybody then.
I might join in next week.
Alrighty.
This was
No
fun.
problem. You have a good one, Damocles. Thanks for joining. And
Thank
everybody
you.
else, thank you as well.
Thank you guys.
Join us next week, Dan.